Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. This week's top 10 list is a little different than usual. This week, my friend Adam sent me this suggestion. He wanted to know basically the top 10 notes for a starter collection. And I don't know if that's worded properly or not, because I've already done the top 10 notes under $100, the top 10 notes for beginners, stuff like that. But I think the direction that I'm going to take this is how prepared you have to be in order to dive into currency collections. If you want to collect currency, there are things you should know about, and there are ways to collect that will get you more prepared. So, with that, that is the top 10 list that I compiled. The top 10 notes to gauge how well you can jump into this hobby. Even that doesn't sound right. I will come up with a decent thumbnail for it, though. All right. So, Adam, thank you very much for the suggestion because it did make me think, and hopefully this is what you were looking for. We'll get this out of the way. All right. Number 10. One of the first things about collecting currency is the fact that we are talking about money. And collecting currency starts as saving money. So, for number 10 on the list, what I chose was the Monochrome Set. And the reason why I chose these notes as number 10 is these are probably in your wallet. You probably have either the 5, the 10, the 20, the 50, the 100. I'm sure you guys have some of these notes because these are the notes that you currently spend. Obviously, they aren't the most current notes, but what I'm getting at is this. That's 100. 150, 170, 180. That's $185. Can you put away $185? Not as easy as some people think, because some people will find a really neat $50 bill. They'll find a $50 bill that's got a star on it, or a $50 bill, or a $100 bill that's got a cool serial number, and they're like, well, if I can't sell it by next week, I'll just have to spend it. All right, well, you see the problem there? That means you cannot put away that $100. So, the Monochrome Set, being able to get one of each of these notes and put it aside and not spend it, there's your first hurdle. Now, when it comes to the monochrome notes, you don't have to put away one from every year. I mean, sure, you could. Obviously, you could do that. But what you want to do is you want to put one away, and then anytime you get another one, compare it. So anytime you get a 5, just keep the better of the two, and before you know it, you're upgrading your monochrome notes. Now, these just happen to be the ones that are sitting around. I'm sure I've got better ones than this 20 here for sure. But anyway, that's the point. To be able to put away notes, especially some of the higher denomination notes, and not spend them. Now, the best part about starting this way is if you give up, you can always spend these. And that's another cool thing about starting at this particular level, which is you're never out any money. Each of these only costs you face value. You can spend them all for face value. So that's number 10. Getting the Monochrome Set and learning to put cash away, not worrying about, oh, now I can't spend $100. That is the collection, so you shouldn't be spending your collection. That's number 10. Number 9. If you go to your banks and you ask the tellers if they have any red seal notes, for instance, sometimes people will turn in $2 red seal notes. Now, by asking your bank for a $2 for to see if they have any red seals like that, if they have any red seals, the $2 note is going to be the one that comes out the most. It's very rare that you're ever going to get any other denomination of red seal, but the $2 notes, you'll still catch those every once in a while. And if you're diligent and ask the tellers every time you're in there, hey, have you seen any red seals lately? If they haven't, they'll remember you, and now you can get a $2 red seal note for face value. So that is an easy way to acquire notes for your collection at face value, that where the notes are actually worth a little more, and it's a lot easier to put just a $2 bill away. So number 9 on my list, that would be a red seal $2 bill, and the way to get it, ask the tellers if they've seen any red seals. Easy way to put it away, doesn't cost you a lot out of pocket. But it's a way to acquire stuff. Number 9, while you're at the bank, and now that you've already learned to put away monochrome notes like that, the next thing you're going to want to do is On occasion, ask the tellers, have you seen any small head currency? Small head 5, small head 10, small head 20, small head 50, small head 100. The small heads, most people don't realize how long these have been out. Small heads came out in 1928. So if you see a small head note like this, that note could be anywhere from 1928 to 1996. So no one ever double checks that. They go, oh, it's a small head note, and they kind of just don't think much of it after that. So if you go to the bank and you ask them, hey, have you gotten any small head currency lately? You'll be surprised at the stuff that they come out. Now, because the tellers know me, they always set aside all the small head currency for me. And I will always buy whatever small head currency they set out for me, but I don't keep it all. I don't ever want to tell a teller, oh, yeah, you saved that whole pile of stuff for me, but it's all garbage. I don't want it. Because the second I say that to a teller, they're never going to save anything for me again. But if I go in there and say, do you have any small head currency? And they bring it out and I buy it with a smile on my face, they're going to try to top themselves the next time and they're going to remember you. So whenever you're offered small head currency, take as much of it as you can. Now, even if it's garbage, take it because it's still spendable. It's a great way to get people to look for stuff for you. And like I said, if you went to the bank to take out $500 and they give you 5 $100 bills like this and 4 of them are garbage, you can still spend those 4. So it doesn't really matter which notes you get from the bank. And by doing it that way, like I said, you're making the tellers feel like they're helping you, and they will continue to do that for you. So that's number 8 on my list, asking the tellers about small head currency and always picking up the stuff that they offer. Number 7. Now, maybe I should have started these a little higher on the list, but if you can't put money away like this at random event times, this stuff is worth a lot more. So this is a great way to start. Number 7 on my list is when you start finding stuff in circulation. This here is a $1 star note. It is a low number star note. If I remember, this is one out of 640,000. So it's a fairly low number star note, or a fairly low print run. Print runs like this can be worth $20, $30, $40. So that's pretty good, especially when you find it for $1. Most of us can set aside $1 without a problem. Most of us are quite happy when they can make $20 from $1. But like I said, $20 and $1, this is pretty easy as compared to putting away $185 for this series, $185 for that series. So once you've busted through the loops of being able to put money away, now you can start buying singles in mass quantity like me and hoping to find something like this. Because now you've told yourself, yes, I can put money away without spending it. Besides, if you start off this way and you find a bunch of these, and then all of a sudden you have a bad week and you have to spend them all, it's really going to hurt when you take 20 singles that are worth $400 and spend them for $20. Anyway, that would be next on the list, a star note, rare star note found in circulation. 8, 7. That's number 7. Yep, 10, 9, 8, 7. Number 6. Now, this is a rare note found in circulation. This is also a rare note that I found in circulation, but I do not find these in circulation very often at all. So this will probably be one of the first notes, if you don't find in circulation, that you'll probably have to get at a show. This is a web note. This is an experimental note. Web notes came out in 1988A. They made 3 series, the 88A, the 93, and the 95. And what's special about these is they printed these the same way you print newspaper, which is instead of using the standard press that they use for all notes, they used what's called a web-fed press. So whenever you see images of a newspaper being printed and that long spool of paper running through the machine, that's how this was done, rather than printing it in sheets. Now, the way to identify these web notes is right here. It's got one solitary number compared to other notes that have Fort Worth or not Fort Worth, and then they have the letter representing the quadrant of the page, and then they have the little number saying the plate number. So this only has a plate number because it doesn't have a position. And on this note here, you can see it also lists the exact position. This came from section E4, but on my web note, there was no exact section because it was one continuous roll. So there's two ways to identify a web note, and the third way is on the back. Let me bring out the other note. The non-web note has the plate number on the bottom right here, and the web note, the plate number has moved up here. So that is how you know you've got an experimental note, a web note like this. Like I said, they were only out in those 3 series, and they are very tough to find in circulation, but fairly easy to find at shows. So once you've started doing this and you decide to branch out and checking out shows, this would be one of the notes you'd pick up. 10, 9, 8, 7. That was number 6. Number 5. While you're out at the show, you're going to see a bunch of these. These are silver certificates. These are 1935. Now, the 1935 series especially, this is the next portion to dive into. 1935 made the 35, the 35A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H series. And those notes are very easy to come by. They're very cheap. These 2 notes that I'm holding are also very cheap. You're talking $3 to $5 a piece, maybe just a hair more. Anyway, what's neat about these is these are both 1935 Gs, but the 1935 G series is when they switched something. If I flip this over on the back, you'll notice this one says "In God We Trust," and this one doesn't. Now, not a big deal. Like I said, one isn't even worth more than the other. These are like $5. These are very easy to get a hold of. But the thing is, this is a particular series, 35G, that you can look for and find two different types of notes that the average collector isn't even aware of. So if you ever want to feel that you're ahead of the game, when you're at a show, look through all the notes and see if you can't find yourself a 1935 G with the motto and without the motto. And when you do, without asking specifically for that, you're going to feel like you got away with something. It's a great way to test the waters on your searchability for something that's relatively low priced, but still has a cool story to tell. All right, number 4 on my list. While you're checking out silver certificates, you may want to get one of the 1928 or 19. This is 1934. You may want to get yourself a 1934 silver dollar. Silver certificate from 1934. You want to get one of these that is in decent shape. This is the first time you're actually going to be considering grade as anything. Get yourself a 1934 $1 note and make sure that it's in a decent grade, because these aren't worth a whole lot unless they are in a good grade. So you want to find one that's in really nice shape. And what makes this note so cool? Well, this one is the funny back. And the reasoning for it being called the funny back is, first and foremost, these were only out in 1934. I believe the 1928 had this back as well. But the 1935 series ran for all the way until, what was it? 1963 is when the Federal Reserve started printing notes. So you had that huge 30-year span where you had notes come out that did not have this back. Now, because of that, when you go through a strap of singles, most bills would have the back that you're used to seeing, but every once in a while, you'd come up with one where the back was rather funny looking. Now, another thing is that these notes here, people will say that this looks like Monopoly money, which is funny because Monopoly, when they designed their money, they used this as an idea for how to design their money. So you're not far off by saying it looks like Monopoly money. That's actually part of the history behind the note. Anyway, this is a 1934 funny back silver certificate. You want to find one of these in good condition. So like I said, this is your first attempt at judging notes based on condition before you buy them. And that would be number 4 on my list. Number 3. Number 3 on my list, this is emergency currency from World War II. This is a 1934A, if I recall. Yep, and this one is a $5 note from North Africa. These are a little more expensive. The 5, the 10, they're a little expensive, but you can find the $1 notes from both North Africa and Hawaii at a reasonable price. You can find them for probably under $20 in decent shape. So now you're talking about notes that have historical significance. That's why I wanted to put this at number 3. It looks like a regular note. It looks like a regular small head, but now you're not getting a note because it's old. Now you're not getting a note because it's a small head. Now you are getting a note because of the historical specific significance of this particular note. Now, the North Africa notes, and the Hawaii notes were emergency issues for our troops to use while overseas. And if there was ever a bunch of money that was able to get stolen by our enemies, with the stroke of a pen, they could cancel all of the notes with this particular seal. That made it safe for us to handle, and we didn't have to worry about the economy crashing because of somebody getting a hold of money. Anyway, like I said, now you're talking a note with historical significance, and that should be one of the things that you learn about when you are collecting currency. After all, these could be considered dollars, they could be considered money. I like to think of them more as historical documents. So that's number 3 on my list. Number two, now we're getting into notes that are going to run a little bit more than your average $5 or $10, but once again, still something cool to add to the collection. This is a 1923 $1 silver certificate. Now, this is one of the last large size notes that you can find. That makes them fairly cheap. They're out for a number of years, and if you notice how the size changed, they are much taller, much wider than the standard notes that you see, which makes these kind of exciting to actually pick up. The first time I ever saw one of these, I was just a small kid, and I thought it was fake money. I didn't know it was real. And no, that's actually how big money was. So when you can show something this big to your friends, they're gonna ooh and ah about it quite a bit, and yet it's still an inexpensive note to get with all that history, yet it's different not only visually, but in size as well. So that's number 2 on my list. Number 1, I pulled this note for 2 reasons. Okay. Number 1, I pulled out a graded note. Once you're well into collecting, now all of a sudden you may want to consider buying notes that have been graded. Having a note that's graded is a nice thing because now there's no debate over the quality of the note. There it is. 20. So I mean that makes it very easy to determine the grade. The other thing is, if you find a note and you get it graded, they're going to encapsulate the note so that nothing can happen to it. It should be safe from spills. Yeah, this whole thing can still catch fire or whatever, but you're not going to have to worry about things like temperature change or water or mold or anything like that happening once the note has been encapsulated. So you are now not only collecting, but you are preserving the note. The other thing is the note itself. This particular one is a $10 gold certificate, which most people didn't even know gold certificates existed. So doing what I did here, getting a $10 gold certificate that was graded, well, that's the best of both worlds. So now I've got a graded note in my collection, and I've got a $10 gold certificate, which of course is the smallest denomination gold certificate that they ever produced, which makes it the cheapest one that you can get. And because it is a small size note, 1928 is the start of all small size notes, it's still fairly cheap to get. So that's what I've got for you guys this week. Top 10 starter notes, I guess would be a good way to put it. And more importantly, the reasons why I selected those notes and why you should too. If you can put together stuff like this, you're going to be well on your way to becoming a great currency collector. All right, guys. Adam, thank you very much for the suggestion. I hope this is what you were looking for. Guys, if you have any ideas for a top 10 list, go ahead and leave that down in the comments. If I can put that together, I will put your name out in front of it as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week.